Yes, right here. Correct.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you? Brian, I hear you and others talking a lot about Steve Jobs, and delicately, I want to throw a little cold water on that. Steve Jobs had obviously an extraordinary life that changed almost everybody in this room. Did he have an extraordinary year? It seems almost that giving it to him would be like those Oscars where you get a Best Actor award. You had a good movie, not a great movie. Somebody else had a better movie, but you had a better body of work throughout your career. Did he change the world in 2011? I would move no. Certainly not Steve Jobs of 2010 when he comes out the iPad, previous year's iPod, much bigger than Steve Jobs of this year.
Someone's had trouble with Siri, is what I'm getting.
Jesse raised the notion of how it feels.
It's more like a Lifetime Achievement Award, and that may be. I'm just looking for someone to be emblematic for what I believe is missing and remind ourselves of our better spirits, that's all.
And until this year, frankly, until his death and the book coming out and the writing about it, I'm not sure a broader percentage of the country saw that in Steve Jobs.
Yeah,
I mean, there were Apple fanatics who saw it and believed it and knew it, and there were guys who knew him who did, but it wasn't something that was broadly understood. It was his death and the book and the time cover that made people focus on his achievement and what he did accomplish.
Also, I do think there's something great about Steve Jobs is the hero CEO. You know, the guy who makes things we use. I think we hear a lot about CEOs now, and I think where a lot of the anger comes from is we don't have anything tactile we can put our hands on that they do. And
well,
that was nice about it.
You know, on the video that you saw, a couple of weeks ago, I interviewed Bill Clinton in Chicago and asked him about Steve Jobs, and he has that beautiful soliloquy about Steve Jobs nourishing his gift. But I also asked him, what could Steve Jobs ever be in politics? And he said he would be out on his butt so fast in politics because he actually doesn't placate anybody. He, says no to everything except the very one thing that he wants to do. And it's a kind of an interesting model because the entrepreneurial model is very different than the political model. And we sometimes think we want more of that in our political leaders, but in fact it might be disastrous to have that in our political leaders.
Right, and I think one of the problems that I'm having with Steve Jobs is that I don't have a sense of there was a generosity of spirit, that it was something that he wanted to spread to people, and he wanted, I mean, it was really sort of about him. And that seemed to be part of what drove him, that he was really the engine. And I think what I'd like to see more of is a sense of really more of a democratic spirit, that other people can do exactly the same thing that I'm doing, and not just that you can do the things that I envision. And I think that is what I think of when I think of his leadership. It was getting people to do what he envisioned. It was not necessarily getting them to envision something better for themselves.
So I'd say it's pretty striking to walk into a school in Malawi and see that Apple logo staring back at you on every desktop.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. But it's a very interesting point you raised.
Brian's been in Malawi.
Brian Stelter is...
He's been everywhere. He's been everywhere.
More questions. Who has the microphone? Oops. Okay, right here.
Hi.
Somebody's walking home alone.
This is kind of not directed towards anybody in particular, but Seth and Brian and Mario have all spoken about it. I am very frustrated as well with where the government's headed, where old America is gone to, and how come it's not what I grew up with and what I cherish. And how do I get back that feeling of, not even pre-Reagan, of what America really stands for? And secondly, don't you guys get sick of covering it but never solving it? And what do you do about that?
Endlessly sick. We cover it for a living, and I can't actually park my car in front of someone's home, break in, go into their living room, grab them by the shoulders, shake them, and force them to change. Tried it. It's just painstaking, and you get arrested. So I'm not in that business. I'm in the putting out the product business. That's not to allay any responsibility, but endlessly frustrating that the audience we have is what we get, and we're kind of maxed out, and we'd like to get everyone's attention, not because we believe we have this fantastic brand above all else, but just watch an evening newscast, watch something, engage, find a great newspaper-based website, like the one represented by the guy behind you who's trying to get his question answered. Find a great source of information and become an engaged citizen. That's all.
Richard Holbrook, who passed away, I think this year, had a quote that summed it up perfectly. He said, know something about something. Don't just
Yeah.
wait for the world to realize how wonderful you are.
Yeah.